Some days you feel so good in your own skin, 'cause you look greatest when you feel
Hi
like
everyone,
me.
thank you for coming back to my channel, Adventures with Amirah. Today I wanted to talk to you guys about the struggles that I've had with skin cancer and just some of the things that I've been through in my life with having to have different things biopsied and just the experiences that I've gone through. So let's get into it. First, I wanted to say I was an awful person when it came to sunscreen and being in tanning beds. And I mean, what I mean by awful is that I just didn't really have as much regard for the health of my skin when I was growing up. We were always boating and swimming and in the rivers and the oceans, and especially during the summer, I just played outside all day. And part of that is, you know, my parents just didn't know what people know now about using sunscreen on kids. For instance, my kids never go outside without sunscreen. You know, if they're having field days and things like that, they're always going to have sunscreen. Even on a cloudy day like today, you still can get a lot of sun damage. And, you know, my parents just didn't realize that growing up. So I was always getting sunburned. And they say that most people that end up with skin cancer later on probably have had, you know, at least 1 or 2 burns earlier in their life, and they just never think about it. And that type of radiation from the sun and the damage that it does can actually, you know, show up many years later. Now, I was using tanning beds as an adult. I started using a tanning bed probably, you know, not all the time, but when it would be closer to summertime, we used to believe the myth about, oh, you should get a base tan, you know, before you go out in the sun, and that'll help you not burn, which any kind of tan that you see on your skin at all is actually damage, because your skin should not look like that. And me being Irish Scottish, you know, I grew up with a lot of pressure about everybody should be tan and you just look prettier tan. In the South it's like that. I don't know if it's like that in other states or maybe in California or something, if everybody just expects you to be, you know, have that sun-kissed beachy look in places like that too. But being a pale person in the South, I felt a lot of social pressure to be tan. And I mean, I could have roasted myself like a freaking Thanksgiving turkey till the cows came home, and I never would have been tan, you know, like friends that have a lot more melanin in their skin. And I just didn't understand that growing up, of course. And I just wanted to let you guys know, be confident with who you are and feel beautiful in your own skin. You know, God designed us all perfectly the way that we're supposed to be. And I just happen to be somebody that's very pale. I mean, Irish and Scottish people historically do not have a lot of melanin in their skin. And we're going to have lots of little moles and lumps and bumps that come on our body, and that's totally okay. You know, everybody's different. Everybody's beautiful in their own way, but I wasn't really raised to think of myself that way. And I always felt like I needed to just, if I could just get a little bit more tan. And unfortunately for me, I'm severely allergic to self-tanners. So this video is really just to share with you guys how to avoid having to go through the things that I've been through. I got my first biopsy done on a tiny dot. And when I say tiny, I mean it looked like you'd taken a black felt tip pen and just barely made a speck. And a dermatologist caught it after I had my son. I think I was just more concerned about my general health. You know, once you become a mommy, you just think, I need to take better care of myself so that I'll be here for my kids. And I had gone in for a routine just skin screening because I knew I had had some burns earlier in life. And sure enough, the doctor was right near like my panty line or like my bikini line, which is probably a place that you kind of miss sunscreen sometimes. And I mean, it was such a tiny speck, and sure enough, it was pre-melanoma. I had another place taken off of my leg a few years later that, I mean, it looked like a tiny spot also, but then when they went back in, they had to have me come back in because they have you, they cut out more to get all the parameters to make sure they got a wide enough field around where the spot is so they get everything. And this tiny spot that they took that time, this place they took out of my leg was like the size of a boiled egg. I mean, it was huge, and I had to have stitches and stuff like that. And that was kind of near my bikini line on a different leg. And then, was it last year? I think last year or the year before, I had a spot that kind of, it was strange. It almost felt like I had like a rash. I wasn't sure at first, was it like a pimple? I don't normally get acne or anything on my shoulders, but it was right on the back of the shoulder, and it was just itchy. And you know how like your well, for girls, your bra strap kind of, you know, scratches you sometimes, or it's rubbing in a weird spot, or it was twisted, and I thought, surely, you know, that's what it is. And then it never stopped. Like, it went on for a few weeks, and it just would itch and get agitated. And I went in, and it was a basal cell carcinoma. You know, my doctor saw it right away. He said, that's a basal cell carcinoma. I need to take that now. I was like, what? I was like, I thought it was like a skin rash, or like, I don't know, a weird mosquito bite or something. And then turns out, thank goodness I had gone in to get screenings. And ever since that first time that I went some years back, I try to go every 6 months. I definitely go every year, but I try to go every 6 months. And it's very good to find, you know, a dermatologist you feel comfortable with, because what I want to tell you about being in tanning beds is you expose so much of your body that you don't think about. And not that, you know, even if you just tan in the sun, a melanoma or something can't pop up in a place that was covered by a bathing suit. But when you're laying in tanning beds, and especially when you lay in them nude, and you've got parts of your body being exposed that should have never seen the light of day, or maybe you live in a country where you go to nude beaches. I mean, I don't know, but you know, you have to think about that. And if you're in a doctor's office, you literally have to strip down, and they have to look at every single part of your body. And sometimes you can do, you know, self-screenings and kind of go in and show them. But really, if they're doing a thorough check of you, they should be checking every inch of your body. And when you're having to, you know, lift your breast up for them to look up under your breast, and they're looking, you know, it's like, wow, you know, this stuff should have never even... Just in a tanning bed, you just expose so much more. And I've had so many places taken off my chest. Today, I went in for an appointment this morning to have a screening, and I had this strange mole on the bottom side of my left breast. And it has just been, I swear, mutating or something. Like, it was 3 different colors. The parameters weren't the same. It was shaped kind of like a flower or something like that. It was like pink, a beige color in one part, and then it was kind of white in another part, all within the same little flower shaped thing. And I've been looking at it, and I had somebody look at it probably last year, but I swear it's changed a bit. So she went ahead and took it off this morning, and they're going to do a biopsy on that. So I'll let you guys know for sure if that comes back that it is cancerous. But I've had so many places just have to be removed, and you don't think about that when you're laying in tanning beds. You know that, wow, you know, they're going to have to cut all these different places off of me possibly. For you girls that are going to tanning beds and you're roasting yourselves in the sun, even if you have beautiful tan skin already, you still can get skin cancer. African Americans can get skin cancer. There are certain medications that make you more photosensitive. I just want to let everybody know that feel beautiful the way that you are. You know, my husband, thank goodness, he loves my pale skin. He calls all these little freckles and moles that I have over me my constellations. So he's like, they're just like little stars, you know, and he's been with me so long. We've been together almost 20 years that he just knows my body. So luckily I have somebody that can say, hey, you know, that's new. And I'll always have him look over me, you know, and say, hey, do you see anything new? Especially like on your back, because you wouldn't really see it, you know. So it's good if you have somebody like that. This morning I did take my son in, and he's only 12, but he had a spot right in the top of his scalp. And it's just by happenstance, he went to a barber the other day that poor old lady did not know what she was doing, and she started out with the wrong type blade on the clippers and just did right down the middle, and it was like just skint, like a military cut, which we were on the military base, so shouldn't be surprised that sometimes they make that mistake. And she was like, oh, and I was like, oh my goodness. So she had to shave his head pretty much. Well, when she shaved his head, I was looking at his head, and I happened to see this dark spot right in his head. And so I had him go in this morning so that they can monitor that. And they don't think it's anything to be concerned about. But even young children, you know, can have skin cancer or have pre-melanomas. And so it's really important for you guys to know what types of sunscreens are going to work for your family. You know, I'm really sensitive to a bunch of different sunscreens to where I break out in like almost like a chemical burn. There was one that a dermatologist gave me called Neutrogena SPF 70 for faces. This was a few years back, so they've changed the formulation a little, but it still gives me a chemical burn, and I didn't even realize it. I had gone to the Cayman Islands and a few other places, and I seemed like I had gotten burned, and I thought, gosh, I must have missed a spot, or I didn't put enough on, or it washed off or something. And I didn't realize till almost 6 months after using this sunscreen, and we were at Disney one day. We went out to the pool. I had just put my sunscreen on. We went out to the pool, and suddenly one of those flash thunderstorms came through, and the sun never came out, and we went right back inside. Like, we were out there like 2 minutes, and within 15 minutes my face just started burning and itching, and I was like, OMG. All this time I thought I was getting sunburned. It was a chemical burn from the sunscreen. And then I had read online a few other people had that same experience. I don't know what chemical it was in that specific sunscreen, but for me, I have to just be careful and try not to get discouraged. There will be a sunscreen out there that will not affect you. You just might have to go through a few. I know it's hard and frustrating when you're not used to wearing sunscreen, and then you're trying to be good, and then if it breaks you out, you know, a lot of them are kind of greasy on the skin. One of the ones that I love is called Kiss My Face. I order it from Vitacost, but I believe they carry that line at Target as well. And the SPF 30 is just a great everyday sunscreen. I put it on my arms, my face, my neck, especially my chest. And, you know, just going to carpool to pick up the kids, you're sitting there and all that radiation's coming through the windows of your car. And we have tinted windows, but I'm so much darker now than I was in Colorado. And that's just from, you know, going outside here and there, being in the pool, running back and forth to carpool, because I don't roast at the beach anymore like I used to growing up. I mean, when we go, I'm normally under an umbrella or a tent, and I have on normally SPF 70 if I'm going to be out in the sun, and I do reapply quite often. But I want you guys to try to find sunscreens that you like. You want to find something that you like the smell so it doesn't give you a headache. You know, if you're like me, I get headaches from different scents and stuff. But there is something out there, and I don't want you to feel discouraged, and I don't want you to feel pressured either by society that you have to be tan, because what if you're allergic to self-tanner like me, and what if you're a skin cancer survivor like me? I do, being in Florida, see a lot of people still just laying out in oils and stuff, and I'm just like, I want to tell them, I want to like just buy all kinds of sunscreen and just go hand out sunscreen at the beach or something, because I feel so bad for people. Like, oh my goodness, you don't know the damage that you're doing to your skin, especially when you're, you know, when you get older and it's causing so much damage within your face, and you don't think about wrinkles and sunspots and all these kind of things later on. And like, I have a sunspot right here. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but I have like a little brown spot that's on the side of my face. Well, that's because that's my driver's side window that I'm always in. And when my husband was in the military, I mean, I've driven back and forth from California to Georgia and back all through the desert with the sun just beating on my face, and I probably didn't have on enough sunscreen. And back then I probably didn't even wear sunscreen, just driving around. I didn't think about it. And sure enough, I have a sunspot on this side of my face. And I've seen that so often where people get the sunspots, I guess in America would be on the left side of your face. I wonder if in like countries where you drive on the other side of the road, if they would have more sunspots on the right side of their face. That'd be interesting to look into with my friends from Europe. But anyway, I just wanted to share that with you guys. I do have to wait now for the biopsy that they're doing. It should be about 2 weeks to see what's going on with the thing that they took off of my chest this morning. And you know what was interesting this morning? She told me that one of the dermatologists in Colorado, they did what's called a punch biopsy, where it's not a hole punch. It was the worst one. Like the thing she took this morning, it was on the other side. It didn't even hurt when she took it off. Normally, if they know what they're doing, they inject you. I didn't even feel her do the numbing injection, and then she had already sliced it off and it was already bandaged, and I was like, are you done? She's like, oh yeah. I mean, she'd already put the bandage on. I didn't even feel it. I don't feel it now either, and that was a few hours ago. But this thing, when they did a punch biopsy, oh my goodness, it had to have stitches, and it was bleeding a lot. My whole side of my breast turned purple. I mean, it was horrible. My husband's like, what in the world did they do to you? And it wasn't anything. Like, it was a freckle that had actually stretched when I was breastfeeding, because my breast got so much bigger when filled with milk or whatever, and so it just kind of stretches out your skin. And I told her that. I said, that was a freckle, but it's kind of stretched because I had been breastfeeding. And she said, well, I'm just going to do this just in case. And it was nothing. But the dermatologist this morning said, well, do you know, for a punch biopsy, we charge probably about $850 versus for what we did this morning is like $100. And she said, I wonder, did they just do that for the money? And that's so horrible. So you have to kind of, I never would have known that, but I wanted to share that with you guys. It left a permanent scar there, where most other things that I have removed, you cannot even see a scar at all. So you have to be careful. That was a new dermatologist to me, because for all I know, it was just for the money, which Ugh, that's awful. So I wanted to share that with you guys. But anyway, if you have questions for me about my experiences with skin cancer or recommendations for sunscreens that I've been able to use on my sensitive skin or for my children, let me know in the comments down below. And I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.